Welcome to the DIY Goalie podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie. Welcome back, goalies, to another episode of the DIY Goalie podcasts presented by True North Goaltending with your hosts Connor Monday and Nathan Park. Hope you guys are all doing well today. I guess for those of you that celebrated, happy Independence Day and, the Canada Day festivities too. I hope you guys had fun with your days off, times off, all that good stuff. It's been a little while since we've been together on the same pod. I know we've only skipped 1 week, but it's been a couple weeks, I think, since we recorded. So we're back and we've got what we think is going to be a very fun episode. Probably going to have to split it in two parts, but we've each kind of gotten a list of mystery questions that the other one does not know what questions they are. We might end up with the same questions, which would be pretty interesting. But basically we're going in this blind. We're going to throw some curveballs at the other host here, and hopefully that makes for some interesting content. So how are you doing today, Connor?
I don't know why I'm so nervous about this. I have no idea why I'm so nervous about what you're going to ask. I don't know. I think it's just maybe just.
It's basically a game of would you rather or never have I ever. I mean,
yeah, really.
we're gonna dig.
I guess. I don't know. I guess just for me, it's like the fear of like looking stupid. I don't know. But that's the beauty of that's hey. I mean, granted, but come on. No, I'm good. Man, was it ever a hot day here today? I think we reached up to like 32 at one point today. Like, I'm wearing a tank top underneath this today, and just like it was just so hot. Like I did spend most of my time outside, as you probably can tell by my face. Just hung out in the. Thank you. Just kind of hung out in the pool there, and didn't get around to doing a lot today. But hopefully for those in the off season, hopefully everybody's doing well, training and all that stuff. Congratulations to those that made it into the NHL draft, all the goalies that got drafted. And if you didn't get drafted, your chance will still come. It just may come at a later time.
Anyways, we should have rock, paper, scissors to see who would go first. So I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to dive in.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Question number one for you. If you had to pick what is better for a goalie, would you rather be on a team who constantly wins 10-0 or constantly loses 10-0?
I guess I would rather be on the team. Oh, that's a good one. Jeez, I don't know. I don't know. Just coming in hot right off the bat. I don't know, because like there's pros and cons to each. Like the pros for being on the team, that's losing 10-0 is, it's giving you that opportunity to kind of really nitpick the game, which I guess in turn can be a con. And then the actual con to that is like that's a huge blow to the self-esteem and the mentality of a goaltender, because we've all been in those games where we got absolutely blown out and it messes with you. The pros and cons for being on a team that wins 10-0 is, well, okay, the con is that maybe you don't get to do a whole lot. The pros is that, well, maybe you get 10 shots in a game, give or take, and you stop all 10 or you stop 9 out of the 10. So I think I'd rather, I don't know, kind of weirdly, I think I'd rather be on the team that loses 10-0 every game, because I think that gives you an opportunity to, kind of really evaluate your game, and you get to exploit a lot of weaknesses in your game, and it gives you a lot of chances to develop. So then you can eventually be the goaltender for the team that wins 10-0. Yeah, I think that would be my pick.
Yeah, me personally, I think the adversity is better than the sitting there picking your nose for the game. If I
Yeah,
had to pick, I think for a goalie, it'd be better to be on the 10-0 team. But as you said, it's tough mentally if you can get past
yeah,
that and figure out how to deal with the adversity and get the positives out of it, then I think it can be a good thing. But yeah, getting 3 shots every night in games is also not very, good for development. So, but yeah,
yeah.
that was my first question. So,
Well, I think it's a lot better than my first question here. And so I gotta preface with this again, because again, like we've been talking so much about robotic goalies or goalie school goalies as of late. So my question to you is that, do you believe there is a right versus wrong way to play the position?
well, yes. Um, Now I'm going to caveat that with on certain things. So to me, unfortunately for the keyboard warriors out there, the strictly stand up all the time on everything is the wrong way to play goalie. um, there's also, if you're going to be facing towards the net the whole time, that's probably a wrong way to play goalie. So
Okay,
I
so
do
so
think.
so so can I reword my question? Can I mulligan this?
Well, here. So I was gonna then carry on to being like, I doubt you meant that. So when we're talking about, so if we go into the assumption that the fundamentals are the same across the board, so you're tracking your movements, you're efficient, like goaltending, I guess if you put it in the box of modern goaltending, if you have the basic foundation of fundamental skills down pat, I don't think anything from there is necessarily wrong if it works for you. Um, so because some people are more flexible than others, some are more athletic than others, some are, better at understanding the game. So there's going to be different variations of how to play the modern style that's going to work for you based off of your skill set. So I think on that sense, there's not necessarily a wrong way per se, but there is for sure a wrong way that you could play goaltending. So if you're laying on the ice in a pad stack the whole game, that's probably not going to do it for you. But yeah, I think if we
So
talk about in the context of modern goaltending, if you're hitting all the check boxes with the fundamentals, you should be good.
yeah, so the way that I was thinking about it, like especially, I'm going to bring this kind of back to Edmonton for a second, since we like to talk about the Oilers goaltending so much. Um, it's I like to the untrained Oilers fan, or to the untrained hockey fan or goalie eye. A lot of fans thought that the style of Calvin Pickard or Mike Smith was better to this compared to the style of Stuart Skinner, Mikko Koskinen, Cam Talbot. And so for me, like, I think for a goalie that relies on athleticism too much, particularly in today's game, doesn't cut it as much. I mean, guys like Jonathan Quick, Dominic Hasek, to name the top two that I can think of off the top of my head, were great for their athleticism in the game that they played back in the early 2010s, something along those lines, 2000s as well. But in today's game, again, as long as you have a good foundation to start, I genuinely hate the term goalie school goalies, robotic goalies, because that's not exactly what we're doing in this instance. We're just trying to make the game or make the position more efficient. So for me, I would say again, yes, that there is a right way to play the position, and that's to play it more efficiently rather than, oh, look at Mike Smith or look at Calvin Pickard and how insanely, I don't know, not flexible. It's not the right word that I'm looking for, but how insanely athletic that those guys are. And I think I think if we start leaning more towards that, then all the work that all the goalies and goalie schools have put into up to this point to make the position more efficient kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, the way I see it is basically you're setting yourself up to be as consistent as possible when you have structure to your game. Now, that being said, you do need some athleticism and some
Absolutely.
battle, and sometimes you need to improvise. A lot of times you need to improvise. Um, but it's one of those things too, like, unfortunately, a lot of the people that are evaluating goalies aren't goalies. And so they go off of how much you look like a goalie in their mind, anyways.
Yeah.
And so you may consistently make saves by flying around, diving around, but a lot of times people aren't going to pick that just because statistics say that that's not the best, most consistent way to go about it. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say because at the end of the day, our job is stop the puck, and if you can do that successfully, no matter how you do it, theoretically, that should all be that matters. But there also is a few ways that help to do that a little bit more consistently. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Like, I don't necessarily think there's a right or wrong way. I mean, but there are some things that are
Yeah.
definitely no-nos. But if you are consistently stopping the puck and achieving higher and higher levels as you go doing so, then to me, you're doing something right, even if it's necessarily not, quote unquote, right by a average goalie coach's standards. At the end of the day, your job is stop the puck. So whatever works for you to do that, have at her.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Fair
my
enough.
thoughts on it.
Fair enough.
All right. So my next question, what is the one skill you think would have changed your career if you had been really good at it?
My athleticism.
Okay, so all that we just talked about is okay,
um,
elaborate. What part of that? Like your improvisation skills, your flexibility, your lateral movement, like what part of athleticism?
I think my lateral movement was actually okay. I think it was just okay. Let me put it this way: controlled athleticism. And so, what I mean by that more so is, like my lateral movement was fine. I was able to beat the pass on most pucks. Um, but I think just afterwards, you just scramble in front or whatever. I don't think I did enough or wanted to do enough to be able to lay my body on the line to make the save. However, I did. My butterfly crawls were not to standard as they would be nowadays. Um, Flexibility definitely did play a part in that. Um, I was the most flexible guy. I'm not gonna deny that. Um, so I think that kind of part in particular is just kind of being able to maybe just be that inch or two a little bit more athletic rather than trying to find, again, like we were just talking about, the more efficient way back or whatever, right? So that's I yeah.
So more so kind of like that battle then, a little bit more
Yeah,
battle.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because
Okay.
yeah, because like especially like I don't know, like throughout the entirety of my career, you'd make the first save, maybe you'd make the second save, and then when it came to that third or fourth shot, and you're way out of position, or you end up falling on your butt somehow, right? And that's just because your weight's not taking you the right way, and you don't feel confident in your lower body movement, especially in like a butterfly crawl, or just trying to get the splits across or whatever to be able to make that extra save or get a limb out there to make it. So I don't know. I think just probably just that would probably actually be it.
Fair
Because
enough.
like
Fair enough.
because again, like same thing as well. Like we were talking about in the episode of Troy, I'm 6'1", so crossbar probably sits about middle of my lower back, give or take, right? And so I took up a good chunk of the net already. The equipment that I had took up a good chunk of the net already, but there were holes when it came to a lot of scramble in front.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the complete opposite problem. I was very athletic and had no structure whatsoever until junior.
Yeah,
So, you know, we should have melded together to form one super goalie or something.
yeah, really.
All right, what do you got next?
Um, I guess I'll go. Which one do I want to go with here? I guess let's let's do this. Okay, so you and I were talking about this earlier in the season, especially when it was to a point where like, I wasn't able to find a team to be able to be on a management staff for this year. So I guess just again, kind of continuing on with this is just how do you as a coach deal with imposter syndrome, especially when there's a way that we teach things and you get goalies like Mike Smith and Calvin Pickard and they completely throw everything that we say out the window.
Yeah. I think time, honestly, like I don't nearly have the imposter syndrome that I did a couple years ago. Now, that being said, if I were to get a coaching gig at a certain level or higher, I might have it for a little bit. But I think it comes with, I guess, the confidence, right? I mean, like, we get a lot of good feedback on the way we coach the goalies we work with. And I guess hearing that lots over time kind of helps build the confidence. But I also think too, like the ability to have an open mind and to keep learning and to actually admit when you're potentially wrong or need to make some changes or tweaks. I think that goes a long way too. Like I think if you can understand that just like goaltending itself, coaching is a process and a process where you're constantly learning and all that stuff. I think that helps kind of minimize it or take it away a little bit as well, just because it's like, you know, if I know that I don't know everything, all I basically need to do is know more than the goalie I'm working with, or at least be able to help them get to a point where they need to find their answers, right? Even if it's just through discussion or, you know, like going through video with them and they kind of reach their own conclusions, but you're there to help guide them kind of thing. I think that's a big one to kind of help with that. Yeah, I don't know. I think as with everything with the imposter syndrome, just time and experience is probably the biggest thing that helps with that going away. But yeah, I think if you're just taking it as a continuous learning experience, having an open mind and all of that, I think that helps as well. So I think if you have too much of an ego, that's kind of when you you can really find yourself doubting yourself if somebody comes and challenges you. But
I find
yeah,
it I find it to be the opposite for me. And so what I mean by that is like when I was coaching on a team, for me, I could say that these are my goalies. I'm working with these guys consistently throughout the year. I'm able to bounce ideas off of them. I'm able to have these discussions and such. And so I'm able to build that relationship with them throughout the course of the season. So, and for me, that builds my confidence because I'm able to have those, discussions with them versus what we do on our side of things, which is nothing ever really wrong with that. But I'm seeing different kids throughout the week. Sometimes I'll see them 3 times in 3 months, or I'll see them 3 times in a week or 2 weeks or whatever, right? So, and even then, like it's a constant, flow of goalies coming through, and it's all different faces and such. And I mean, you've gotten those text messages from me, who am I working with today, and all that, and or what do we know about this kid, and and everything else. So I don't know. I guess just for me is this the goalies that we work with are true north goalies, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess, for me, it's when I'm on a team, I can say that these are my goalies, these are who I'm working with throughout the years, and these are the guys that I'm seeing consistently throughout the year. So I'm able to build that confidence, be able to build that relationship with them, being like, oh, okay, I see goalie A week 1, I see goalie B week 2, I see goalie C week 3, and then I don't see goalie A again until a couple months later.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I think those are maybe like two different questions then, because like,
It might be.
yeah, like me personally, I don't know. I don't mind being on a team, but it would have to be at a decently high level. Like I find until you get to the higher levels, the goalie coach is just kind of an afterthought, and it's not really worth us going out a whole heck of a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
that's why I personally like not necessarily being on teams. That being said, if I could find a college or a junior and up gig, then I'd probably jump on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with that. Um, you got anything else on that, or you want me to go?
No, I think you can jump into your next one. I think just for me, it was hard for me this year opening up. It was hard for me this year, being on it or being not being on a team because I've been on a coaching staff for the last 10 years of my career, and yeah, just seeing different faces all the time was kind of different for me this year.
Yeah, you got to build that toolbox, that skill set we talked about.
Yeah.
All right, so fresh off of the draft, this is a draft related question. Not
Okay.
just the NHL draft. This can also be the CHL draft or insert draft here.
Okay.
Do you think that we should make goalie draft eligible ages higher than players?
Why?
So, because the whole talk of the goalies developing later, like you see the NHL goalies on average probably being about 26, 27 when they finally get a foothold and establish themselves in the league. So when you think of like the CHL draft, for example, or I guess just the CHL, if you're drafting a 15-year-old goalie, and because those teams are more centered around winning as opposed to developing because they are businesses, if you have an 18, 19, well, yeah, 19 or 20-year-old goalie and you draft a 15, 16-year-old, realistically, how long do you think it's going to take until that drafted goalie might get any sort of games, any sort of meaningful games? Probably not for 3 years, right? 2 to 3 years at least. So I don't know. I just thought it'd be an interesting talking point to to throw it out there and see what your thoughts would be on it.
So I guess
But
I'll tackle the excuse me the CHL or the WHL draft because that's what I'm more familiar with. I think at that level, the draft eligibility would remain the same for me because I think at that level it would be more so about development to be able to progress those guys to the next level. Same in any sort of junior-ish fashion. Um, when it comes to the pro levels, I think of a guy like Stuart Skinner. Because Skinner was drafted. Where was he drafted? I think he was drafted 2017.
17, I think, yeah.
17, 18, 17, 18 around there. and he's only started. I mean, I've said this in other pods. Like this is his third full year. This was his third full year in the NHL, and he got some games in here and there. I the goaltending market in the NHL is so weird because you have goalies that like, there's only 2 spots on each team compared to what is it, the 18 spots for players,
23.
four lines, 3, something like that.
Yeah, 23 active roster spots, but
That's right. So I think I'd honestly have to say no. I don't think the eligibility for goalies in the pro aspects of it would change or would need to change. I think just it's all due process. And so I think for goalies in particular, getting that ECHL, AHL experience, because you're effectively growing up with the guys that you got drafted with that are the same birth year as you. There's only a select few amount of players, particularly that players that are first 3 draft picks, that will make it onto the pro roster, and that's because they're exceptional players. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for goalies to develop later compared to players, because there's more of an aspect for goalies to develop compared to players. And this is me being ignorant, because I can say like, oh, players develop their shooting, develop their skating and such. We have more. We as goalies have more intricate levels of skill, which there in turn require a more elongated development process compared to players.
yeah, I don't know if I have an established stance on that yet. I do think that the problem is we have a development system that isn't really designed for development. It's designed for success. Like you look at junior teams, they're businesses. They're trying to keep the doors open, which means they're trying to win, which means they're trying to do whatever they can to put the best product on the ice. And that's not the right environment for proper development. That's the right environment to, you know, play a 20-year-old goalie for, 80% of the games through a season while your supposed runner-up goalie sits on the bench. Or we see even a couple guys that kind of get lost in limbo, right? Where maybe they're third on the depth chart of a CHL team, and they're kind of pushed somewhere in junior because the junior coaches of the well-established programs are like, well, I don't know if this guy's going to get called up in 2 weeks. I don't want to take him. We have 2 goalies that we know are here for the year. We're going to ride them out. And all of a sudden, your third guy on the depth chart is playing junior B or is playing junior A somewhere in the middle of nowhere, not getting good playing time or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, if you adjust the draft eligibility age for goalies, does that maybe force guys to stay where they are a little bit more and get some better development instead of jumping up to a level where they're only going to get 12 games in a season? That's kind of, I don't know. If we're not going to be able to change the system to develop properly, then maybe you put constraints in place to help kind of force people to make better decisions for where they're at in their career. But I don't know.
And so
Just
I think that's where I might be stretching this here, but I think that's kind of where the NCAA changes probably would take effect. And that's kind of where maybe you would see change in that aspect, where, because like a lot of the good WHL players or the good Canadian Hockey League players would rather go to the NCAA because it is a better league by miles compared to what we have up here in Canada when it comes to junior hockey. And then, so kind of echoing what you would say, would that trickle down effect when it comes to both players and goalies, would that have an effect on, you know, kind of changing kind of just how they develop their players, or how they the models of that these organizations bring to the table when it says, hey, you come play with us and this is how we'll get you to that next level. We talked about it again earlier as well, where like there's the open borders thing that's happening now, and you got all these different leagues and the minor hockey systems and whatever else, and so there's a lot of competition out there, which means that there's a lot of spots. So these organizations, again, to echo what you were saying, is like they have to change. They should be changing how they do their operations, do their business. Be like, hey, come play with us. This is how we'll develop you. This is all the stuff that you're going to get, or this is all the stuff that we're going to promise, and then move forward from there. Because before there was one road in the development stream when it came to hockey, and especially in Canada. You played minor hockey, you played minor double A, minor triple A. You went on to the WHL if you were good enough, and then from there you went on to play on the show. Now you have all these other options and stuff. Mind you, we're not seeing a lot of players coming out of these outlaw leagues when it comes to getting drafted into the CHL as a general stance. But again, I would imagine that with this NCAA change, that maybe you do see differences in that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the landscape in 5 to 10 years, because I mean, we're in the thick of a bunch of change, and who knows where it's going to end up with the NCAA rules, with the unsanctioned stuff. And, we've seen it with the BCHL leaving Hockey Canada. Yeah. I'm curious to see what the ripple effects that has on other teams or leagues. But yeah, I don't know. It was just some food for thought to since we have some very systemic issues with our development plan here in North America in general, pretty much. So I don't think you change the whole system. So I don't know what other constraints you could do. And I thought it was just an interesting talking point.
Yeah. So. I guess this kind of segues nicely into this question. Is here in, I guess, both Alberta and in Canada, what do you think of the current state of goaltending development? We've talked about it before in a previous podcast. Do you think it's easier or harder for goalies to be able to advance to next level?
Well, that question, how easy or hard it is to advance to the next level, I don't know. I mean, the thing is there's so many different levels now. So like, it's like kind of on one hand maybe easier, on another hand maybe harder, because the competition is a little stiffer. What I will say is the skill level is astronomically better than when we played. Like I see some of these goalies and I'm like, dude, you're better than me when I was 5 years older than you are now. I do think it's tougher to navigate the current landscape because there's so many options. It's almost like the analysis paralysis, and like there's so much jumping around. Like when we played, it was you go to your zone, you play in your zone, and if you get cut, you just go down to the next level in your zone. And so now you could play for a different team in a different league every year if you really wanted to, and we see players doing that. What I will say though is I think specifically with goaltending, I also think players as well, but I think access to development is the easiest it's been and is continuing to get better, um, which I think is part of why the skill level is so high these days. Um, I do still think there's a lot of headway to make, though. So the current state of development is better, but still needs a lot of improvement. But again, going back to what we were just talking about, a lot of that's systemic, right? Like you'd have to overhaul the whole minor hockey system to make the significant changes that we need to make, and I don't think people are here for that. Like that's the unfortunate part, is especially with the hockey community, there's so many people that are like traditionalists, where it's like, no, this is how we've done it, why are we going to be changing, kind of thing. And unfortunately too, it's a sport that doesn't get a whole lot of research or a whole lot of kind of money funneled into it compared to some of the other sports out there. So I don't know. It's improving, but there's still lots of legwork to do, in my opinion. And the current landscape is very complicated. And I feel for all the goalies out there trying to, like, we get questions all the time. Should we go HSL? Should we go JPHL? Should we stick with AAA? Like, what should we do? And it's like, well, let's unpack this can of worms here. But realistically, I don't even have a solid answer, and it's all situational, and it's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I guess in one sense easier, one sense harder. So it's a whole different beast than when we were playing, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't have a stance on it one way or the other. I was mainly just genuinely asking that question because I was listening to the In Goal podcast with all the Alberta hockey coaches.
Mm.
Kind of the roundtable discussion that they did. I don't
Yeah,
remember much
should
of it
listen
now,
to
but
that one.
yeah, that is it's a good one. I don't think it doesn't touch on the things that I think they should have been talking about, but
The hard questions.
the hard questions, yeah. Um, but the general sense that I get from that pod, and there's a few good friends of mine that are in that roundtable. One of our past guests, Ian Gordon, Curtis Muka, Dave Ratchen, a couple of other ones that I know very, very well. Lot of good insight, and it sounds, by the sounds of it, there's making a lot of headway with that. I guess me being the lowly coach on the totem pole, I didn't even know that they were having that camp. Now, again, not that I paid too much attention to Hockey Alberta in general, but I don't know. I guess just for me, like again, we've talked about this here before as well. You don't see or hear a lot about the, hey, here are the camps that are coming up for Hockey Alberta for goalies of certain development levels happening at this date and this time, because I would totally love just to want to go and just sit down and just kind of watch kind of what they're doing throughout the session, and kind of just be a fly on the wall in that way. But yeah, I don't know. That was just a question that came up as I was listening to the roundtable discussion.
Yeah. Before I move on, and we'll just say I think we were kind of critical of that in our Canadian goaltending episode, was just the lack of communication or marketing or whatever you want to call it between Hockey Canada and the entities when they have events like this going on. And I don't know, like you said, it'd be nice to kind of be able to sit in on some of this stuff, or kind of at least check it out to see if it's something that's of
Something
use.
maybe that we should revisit at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. In your opinion, What is the
It's dangerous.
hardest part about goaltending?
All of it. All of it. It's all difficult.
That's
Don't be a
such a
goalie.
cop out.
I think just the hardest part of goaltending is the um I think it's the IQ. I think it's the understanding the situation part of it. It comes easier um as you get older, but a lot of the stuff that we do with True North goaltending is situational work, along with some standard development work. But our whole spiel is that we pride ourselves on providing the why aspect, excuse me, of doing everything that we do. Um, and for 11-year-old Tommy, who's playing the position because his friend's playing the position, won't understand that or won't visualize that the same way as, I don't know, 22-year-old Alex Johnson. I don't know. I'm just naming names off at this point. Um, so I think that's the more difficult part of playing goal is just the IQ or the mentality part of it. Actually, no, mentality is different. I would say the IQ part of it. I would say is probably the hardest part.
Yeah. So the awareness, yeah, just anticipation. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think people realize who aren't goalies just how much information is processed. And there's the classic clips of the NHL guys that in a minute you see them shoulder check like 40 times or whatever it
mm-hmm.
is, something crazy like that. Um, and I never really appreciated it until I started to dive more into the coaching side of things, because when I played, it was just kind of, I called it the sixth sense. I'm like, oh, it's just there. You just kind of, have a feeling that things are going to happen.
Yeah,
And now I realize that that was the anticipation, like basically the subconscious mind being able to be like, hey, we've seen this before. Most likely this is going to come to the back door. Oh, look, pass back door. We're right there. Big save. Everybody loves it. And it's, I wish I understood that a little bit more when I played, to be able to work on that or embrace it or actively think about it a little bit more, because I think it was something that I did get really good at without even realizing. So I can't even imagine like where I could have got had I actively been working on it and doing some more cognitive stuff and all of that, cuz we didn't really have a whole heck of a lot of that available when we were growing up, at least not mainstream. I'm sure it was available, but nobody talked about it, or it wasn't really pushed or talked as a benefit. So, um, yeah, I think that's a good one, and kind of stole your limelight with a little bit of a rant there, but
I was going to ask like that would be your answer too.
uh, yeah, I don't know. Part of me is like, I also more so want to say that the mental or the emotional side of it would be the toughest. Like, it's a position that has such little support and yet such high expectations. Like, every coaching staff out there is like, oh, I want a goalie that can steal me games. And yet they're running, 3-on-0 drills for 35 minutes of a practice and expecting their goalies to get better.
Yeah,
So, with it being so isolating, with it being so high pressure, I think that I would probably give the edge to that, with being the toughest part about being a goalie. But to be honest, there's probably 5 to 10 plus things you could make a good case for as being the
yeah.
hardest. So I
I
just more so wanted your opinion on it.
the the IQ part, and I'll end this here. The IQ part to me is I think is the hardest part. Like especially in games like where I'm playing beer league. Um, I could read the play well, and I know I can anticipate and know what's going to happen, and then it happens and I still get beat because I just drop, and then I'm kicking myself in the butt afterwards. It's like I knew that was going to happen. Why didn't my body do what I knew what my brain knew it was going to do?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah,
um,
that's part of that cognitive processing skill, I guess.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I think
Um,
maybe we'll do the last one here, and then we'll do a
oh,
part two maybe for next
I
week.
yeah, I have two that I really want to ask you, but oh, now you're gonna make me limit to one.
Okay, well, here, why
Um,
don't we can do your two then, and I can add one more too. We'll go a little
well,
over an hour.
I have one, two, three, four, five questions left over. So if we each do one each, then we can do part two with our four questions remaining.
Yeah, because I've done 4 of my 8. You've done 3
Oh,
of
have
your
you done?
8. So that's why I was like, we
One,
could do
two.
one more.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's do this then. I guess. Oh, this is a tough one. Okay, I'm gonna do this because I think it's more interesting.
Yeah.
This is kind of a stupid
Oh,
question, but I don't like the way you said that. Um,
I like the tough ones.
well, here, let me ask you that. Well, I'll ask it to you. Anyways, in today's state of the game, do you think that we're seeing more rebounds being given up? And would you prefer, and for you as a coach or as a head coach or whoever, would you prefer to see more rebounds or would you prefer to see more shut it down saves, like chest saves?
Okay. So I don't watch very much NHL. I just don't have a whole heck of a lot of time. I'll be honest on that front. I don't know if necessarily I would say there's more rebounds. What I would say is the rebounds are different. So pads nowadays are very different than like when we were playing like in the peak of our careers. Like when I played, there were two streams. There was your hybrid pad and your stiff pad. And that's kind of gone to the wayside. But pads back then were a lot softer. And so a lot of things would kind of stick or just kind of hang out like 2 feet away from you. Whereas nowadays, it's more common to have that kind of like shoot off the pad like faster than it came in kind of thing. So I think that could potentially lead to the anecdote of, oh, there's more rebounds, but I think they're just coming out further. I don't want to say that there's necessarily more. Um, and maybe you could run stats on that, and maybe I'm wrong. Now, how would I want to play that? I'm usually of the camp of swallowing the pucks. Like I like to be able to control the play. I like to be able to get fresh legs, all of that stuff. And I do think more often than not, that's the right play. But there are some instances where you might be better off to kick out a rebound, especially in a situation, maybe like a 3-on-3 overtime type deal where maybe your team made a bad change and it's a 2-on-1 and they shoot far pad and you just kick it as hard as you can out of the zone to try and get a 2-on-1 back the other way. So I'm not going to say there's a or there's ever or never a right time to kick out a rebound, but I do think I personally like controlling rebounds more often than not. But again, with a lot of things goaltending, there are certain situations like it's not always black and white. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. I guess I'd I'd like to see the stats to see if maybe there is a dip or an increase and kind of to see, but I genuinely think there's probably not much of a change in the amount of rebounds. I just think the type of rebound has changed over the years, or the more common types of rebound.
We're gonna have to get we're gonna have to reach out to Hiroki and get him to run the numbers on that.
Yeah.
Either
Hey,
that
I know you
or
spent
either that or get
hours doing one season. Why don't you do another one?
well
Yeah.
two. Do one from the 2003 2004 season and do the one from this past year. I don't know. For me, I guess
Yeah.
like I get just watching the playoffs in particular, just I don't know, just something felt like just that there were more rebounds being given up this year and just kind of more opportunistic chances for players this year compared to other years.
Maybe it's just
I have
because you're thinking about your poster boy Stu Skinner giving an absolute pizza to Barkov in Game 6 finals. Still don't
yeah,
really know what he was doing there, but
yeah, maybe. Whatever.
anyways, continue your rant.
No, I have absolutely no merit to back this up. Um, yeah, Stuart Skinner probably is a contributing factor to that. But even then, like I was watching, like I caught some of the Toronto Florida game. I caught some of the what was it, Dallas Colorado first round. I think I don't
That
know.
was around, yeah.
Thank you. Some of the Dallas Colorado game. It just seemed like that there were just more rebounds being given up by goalies this year rather than should have just been put into the corners or swallowed entirely.
You know what I will say though, and maybe you're right, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, because if you think about how much the game has changed and how good the players are now, the goalies might just not react well enough in time to, put a rebound where they want to, right? And I mean, if you think about it, if you get you know, a power play or whatever that has a cross ice pass through the seam, even if you get across and make a 6 save, you're probably not in a position to actively, you know, put your rebound where you want it to. It's probably just hitting you and bouncing off. And that might be contributing to it a lot, because we know that teams and players understand the game more and kind of understand the analytics behind things. And so we've seen an uptick in high danger chances. So even if goalies are getting into their positions to make their saves, they're probably not reacting very well to those because it's bang, bang, right? So that could be playing into it too, right? Like, we are not seeing 35 shots a game per team because everybody's shooting everything on net like they were in the mid 2000s. Now it's, you know what, we might only get 8 shots in a period, but 7 of them are going to be high quality, off the rush or off a cycle, pass across the seam kind of thing. So I could see that playing a factor into it, and maybe you're right. Like, anecdotally, maybe the rebounds are up, and I wouldn't be surprised just given that fact.
I'd I'm gonna have to. I might have to go do some digging on this.
Are you going to start counting rebounds in the 2000s and the 2020s, or?
Well, I don't know. I might. There's got to be a way to like figure that out. I might just pick out a singular season. I might just like look for the season where there was a lot of goals scored by all teams, and then so take the highest number from 2000 to 2009. Take a season that had the total amount of goals scored, I guess, in that year, and then go from 2020 to, well, maybe I don't know, 2010 to 2019 or 2020 and 2000. There's some parameters.
What, you don't want to cherry pick every game of every season of the last 25 years?
No, I'm not watching. I'm not. Do you know how many games? Oh my god! You know how many games that would be? Holy!
Just put it into Chat GPT, get it to count.
Yeah. AI.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. Well, we'll save part 2 next week.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to change a couple of these questions, but
yeah. All right. Well, you want to take us home then?
I'll take us home. Well, guys, thank you very much for another edition of the DIY Goalie podcast presented by True North Goaltending. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button. Nathan and I both have the merch. You can't really see it. There you go. Good enough. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. The more goalies that we're able to bring to our little community, the better. If you are a new viewer to this channel, first off, welcome. If you are listening over on the podcast side of things, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, thank you very much for being a follower. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you hit that follow button. And again, on both platforms there, make sure you hit the share button. It takes a couple of seconds. The more goalies that we're able to bring to our community, the better. You can follow us on our social media platforms at True North Goaltending, except on Instagram because we like to be different. That one is YEG Goalie Coach. You can follow myself on Instagram at MondayGC. We have basically transitioned everything over to the True North Goaltending website, so make sure you guys check that out. All of our stuff there. We do have some open spots for our 3-day camp, which will be happening in a couple of weeks as of this episode airing. We also do have a limited amount of spots for our 5-day camp happening in August, so make sure you guys go check that out. And if you're interested in booking with us, more than happy to have you. We do have synthetic ice facility sessions all year round, so if you want to do some 1-on-1, 3-on-1, 2-on-1 stuff with us, more than happy to have you out. I don't think I'm missing anything else. If you have any questions, do it for any of us. Make sure you reach out True North Goalies at TrueNorthGoaltending.com. I'll see you guys next time. Make some saves. Take care.